5 Antulay vs. Nayak and Nayak 1 Supl. SCR 1 1988. 2 SCC 602, the case of AR Antulay Thuri Daur. RS Nayak 1988 is one of the landmark judgments in Indian legal history because it established that corruption matters tried by a special court cannot be referred to a high court judge for a hearing. Despite much criticism, the Supreme Court of India was certain that justice had been delivered properly. This subsequently led several legal scholars to assert that law was being hampered by human foresee constraints. Mr. Antulay, the respondent in this landmark case, was the then Chief Minister of Maharashtra, who resigned and left office on January 20th, 1982, while the petitioner, Mr. Nayak, was a political figure with political ties. The lawsuit centers on the respondent's claim that his fundamental rights had been violated. The apex court had issued a landmark decision stating that the High Court's rulings were in violation of Section 7(1) of the Criminal Law Amendment Act, 1952, as well as the appealing party's fundamental rights under Articles 14 and 21 of the Constitution of India. This case is interesting to discuss because the top court has provided a different perspective with which this case can be viewed. The three major legal viewpoints that are to be discussed under this article with respect to this landmark case are constitutional, administrative, and civil law perspectives. Antulay vs. Nayak on a brief analysis of the landmark judgment delivered by a bench of Justices Sabyasachi Mukherjee, Giloza M.N., Venkatachalya, Ranganath Misra, J.J. B.C. Ray, Snatarajan, and S. Ranganathan of the Supreme Court of India have been discussed here under facts. Mr. Antulay, Barrister Abdul Rahman Antulay, had resigned as Maharashtra's Chief Minister on January 13, 1982, after the Bombay High Court sentenced him to prison for coercion. The court found that Antulay had illegally bought Bombay region developers in exchange for more concrete than the quantity distributed by the government to Indira Gandhi Pratibha Pratishthan Trust, which was of the few trusts he had set up and controlled. The court eventually released him on bond. However, the Supreme Court later cleared him of the charge. An appeal was filed under Article 136 of the Constitution on February 16, 1984, and the Supreme Court's Constitution bench ruled that a member of the Legislative Assembly is not always a public worker, thereby reversing the previous order, rather than returning the case to a special judge for disposition as required by law. The Supreme Court unilaterally removed it from the special judge's court and transferred it to the Bombay High Court. Contentions. The appellant party had claimed that he was forced to deal with bias without being given the opportunity to present any pleadings or contentions in front of the court, which he claimed was a violation of his fundamental right under Article 14 of the Indian Constitution. It was also argued that the litigant's fundamental right to trial by a special judge under Article 21 of the Constitution was contravened. The fundamental rights of equality and justice, which stipulated that no one should suffer the brunt of technical faults, were blatantly infringed, according to the appellant. The appealing party had also lost two important rights, namely the ability to appeal to the High Court under Section 9 of the Criminal Law Amendment Act, and the opportunity to appeal to the Supreme Court under Article 136 of the Constitution. The respondent argued that the High Court could withdraw the matter from the special judge under the Criminal Law Amendment Act by means of Section 407 of the Criminal Procedure Code if the conditions were right. It was stated that the matter was transferred without providing the appellant an opportunity to present his reasons, which was unacceptable. The issue of whether the Superior Court had jurisdiction was debated, and it was contended that the court could not be held liable for such charges unless it had behaved in a coram non judice, not before a judge manner. Decision. The Supreme Court's decision in this case was handed down by a 7-judge panel. The bench ruled in 1988 that the case's 1984 ruling was unreasonable, unlawful, and unconstitutional under Article 21 of the Indian Constitution because Antulay's right to use the appeal system was limited. The apex court stated that Section 406 of the Criminal Procedure Code, 1973, allows for the transfer of criminal cases and the Supreme Court to move cases and requests. According to the law, the court may coordinate a specific case or allure from one high court to the next high court, or from a subordinate criminal court to another criminal court of equivalent or upper-level purview. The Supreme Court lacks the authority to transfer cases to itself. Only the Parliament by law has the authority to create or expand the jurisdiction. The judiciary has not been vested with such power,